Hey, welcome back to VEDA 2020. This portion of VEDA is called About Me. And about me, I get to talk about different things. So far, I've shared to you about the foods that I like, the movies that I'm into, well, movies that I like, and my thoughts on movies. Today, we want to stay in the arts, culinary arts, film arts, and now music arts. I love music. I have this opinion that music theory is sort of the pre birth or the precursor to cryptography. That's really reaching stuff, but the reason why I like that is because you can encode music. Sorry, this video is not about music theory. Let's talk about music that I like. So about me, I have a I have been privileged to have been exposed to a great deal of music throughout my life. Um, Growing up in Mexico, I think there's a great deal of musical culture. And one of the relationships that I know I'm grateful for, even to this day, there was a gentleman who had this room. Okay, so my uncle's a musician. My father's a musician. We have a lot of people who are musicians. Some of them are professional, some of them are not. But most people have talent. My kids sing, which is kind of nice to hear them just sort of like humming tunes, because you know music's in their blood. But I remember when I was young, there was this one friend of my uncle, or we knew him, but he was really like a friend of the family. He had this big room with all of these different indigenous instruments. He played a couple times with Ciro Hurtado, and Ciro Hurtado had a band called Guayacaltia, which my uncle played guitar on. And so being that was a great deal of exposure for like folklore, well, I guess they call it folklorico, or Latin America music. But I think as I got older, I got exposed. My mom got really into salsa, and salsa is more dance, soulful music. But but those rhythms that I heard were kind of in contrast to what the music of my youth really was, which was hip hop. So I grew up in the West Coast in LA. So the G Funk sound, the Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and all of those people from the West Coast came out with, really had a great deal of influence. And they did a great deal of sampling of the one and the only greatest artist of ever. Well, not the only. There's some great artists there. James Brown. So James Brown's influences, but all of those rhythms, there was always a parallel between Latin American music, this jazz sort of Afrobeat influence that you heard when you were listening to, James Brown. I learned a great deal of pop sensibility through the music of Prince. I really got into David Bowie when I was a little bit older. One of the things that I remember growing up, sort of in my teens, a lot of the Latino kids that I went to high school with were getting into like the 70s music. Some people got into the Smiths, some people got into the Cure, some more like the British stuff. Some people they got into the Beatles and stuff. And I just didn't fit in with that. So it was kind of like a weird identity problem. But what I discovered in those times was drum and bass. Well, first, I discovered rave music. So electronic music was something that started influencing me. And I started working with computers at a young age. So it was sort of part of the evolution, right? That I went from this indigenous, very organic analog sound to more of a sound designed by computers. So drum and bass is the music that I live and die by. Um, I did listen to a great deal of heavy metal. I love heavy metal. And heavy metal is not just noise. I really do resent when people think about metal as just pure noise. Because you find bands like Meshuggah who get into the polyrhythmic aspects of it, or even Primus who have just a great deal of music theory, heavily influenced music theory. But when it comes to heavy acts, I would say Tool is still number one, the best. And when it comes to drum and bass, I always go back to the roots. that I grew up with. So runny size and that sound was a great deal of impact. There was one specific song in the 1997 New Forms album that has a bass line that sounds so much like a cumbia bass line. And this kind of pattern there was a weird connection to Latin American funk. And yeah, music is a great deal of my life. When I was young, I learned how to play the piano. And later on, when I was a teenager, I picked up a guitar. I still own that Stratocaster. And yeah, there's been other great influence music, like Red Hot Chili Peppers. But one thing that I should not leave out from this video, it's mentioning the German artists that I've been getting into. German rap is a little weird to get into. I do like Luciano, but I think only because I became enamored with one of his songs. Some of the other German artists that I've really gotten into is like Leslie Clio, although she's put out a couple of albums. She put out 3 albums, and then I haven't heard from her. I think she's preparing new music, so I'm excited for that. There's also this guy Romano, who had dabbled in drum and bass emceeing. His latest single is actually a drum and bass tune, which is kind of nice to listen to. But Romano, when I first saw his video for Metal Kutte, which, if I understand correctly, it's like metal armor. But really what they're referring to is this jean jacket with patches. So when I saw that video, it really stood out because you have the contrast of like the sort of electronic hip-hop-ish sound with metal influence. And so it was really nice to listen to. And I went to see him in Munich, and I was just sort of amazed at the creativity and the sounds. Actually, I saw him in Nürnberg again at a smaller venue, but still, great original act, I think. There's another guy who I don't really know his name. I don't think he does music real serious. It's kind of like comedic music. I should find out who his name is. Maybe I'll put it as a text here somewhere. I think that's it. I think that does it for music. I like this theme. We'll keep it with the arts. If you've been keeping up with these VEDA videos, I really appreciate you. Go ahead and leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you'd like to, and we'll catch you on the next one.